Well, money. Well, in this video, we're gonna try to understand why Trump cannot really obtain a recession or really accept why the US should be having a recession. When I speak of Trump, I don't mean Republicans. I mean like the Trump administration or the US government, one or the other. It doesn't matter either they are Democrats or Republicans. I just want you to be with an open mind and speak about it. We should try to understand that why can the US afford a recession in this season actually? Why is it like we will last a recession maybe 2020 and that's when we are likely to ever see again a recession? Because today, US government is at a pinning point where it's likely to be losing its hegemony power to the rest of the world, one or the other, because it's losing its power as a reserve currency, one or the other. Well, the hegemony power for the military strikes, like let's say the being the police of the world, that's still standing one or the other. But you try to understand about the dollar, or we try to understand why the US cannot afford a recession in this current situation. As of date, I would say as of 27th or 28th of April. One of the main reasons would be the US debt. One, there are two or three things: the US debt, the US treasury bonds, and the US government itself. We should try to understand how the US government really works and how it really accumulates in everything that it attains. Just to understand, for 2025 fiscal year, the US government collected almost 5 trillion US dollars and spent around 7 trillion US dollars. 7 trillion US dollars. That means it borrowed over 2 trillion US dollars. It overspent. Like the money it made in revenue and the money it spent is just more. That's like, let's say you earn 5,000 US dollars, but a month you spend 7,000 US dollars. That means you borrowed more 2,000 US dollars from somewhere else. Because that's not money you earned. That's money you like it to be either robbed or you borrow from someone. We should also try to understand that one of the major factors you should try to understand why the US cannot afford a recession. One, a recession is a real setback, one or the other. It makes two or three things bad for the government. Well, it increases the borrowing cost for the US government, one or the other. Because you try to understand that today the US government is having a debt of over 39 trillion US dollars with a service interest of over 1.1 trillion US dollars, which is likely to be more in 2026 fiscal year. Because as of right now, the US government is spending over the war over the US Israel Iranian war. Because we won't have the actual numbers until the war has reached a peak point or maybe of agreement. However, expect the US government to be collecting at least 5 trillion US dollars and likely to be spending at least around don't be surprised when spend at least 9 trillion US dollars this year. That means it's likely to collect at least 5 trillion US dollars and spend at least 4 trillion US dollars. That's a lot, and that's really a lot. To understand how this would impact the US government, see, the US government or the US is the only country that has the authority, let's say, to print money or to inflate the rest of the world, one and the other. Because it can print money out of thin air. This is not money that's backed up by God. It's not money that's backed up by anything, one or the other. Just by the word of the US government. Just that's how I can explain it, one or the other. You should try to understand this is not just only the government, how you should implement it in one or the other. I'm trying to explain why the US government cannot afford a recession. One of the major factors will be like, let's look at the US government, how it spends its money. Okay? Today we are in a regime of a war where we're having a war between US, Israel, Iran. And this is a war that has included the blocking of the Strait of Hormuz, one or the other, okay? Trump has a theory that he wanted to see prices going down because he had implemented what's known as the Big and Beautiful Bill, ABCD. He also wanted to see interest rates going down. However, I feel like he kicked himself in the boots, one or the other. We should try to understand that blocking of the Strait of Hormuz, one or the other, it's gonna create more inflation in terms of oil. That means oil drives everything. Your groceries, your food. When you're going to work, you use the gas, everything. You should try to understand this is a kind of a criteria we are looking at that Trump himself I wouldn't say he really knows what's taking place one or the other, or he has a solution. He may know what's taking place, but finding a trigger solution, maybe he may not want to let him know the public. But we just saw the Chancellor of Germany trying humiliating Trump, like saying that the Iranian government or the Iranian regime humiliated Trump, showed like they can't one or the other. That's a few clips back. But you try to understand why this is really a big deal one or the other. See, let's look at treasury bonds, okay? For US to be able to afford to have their treasury being bought by the rest of the world, maybe foreign countries or investors one or the other, it has to give 2 or 3 assurances. Well, it has a stable economy, one or the other. It won't inflate the economy, one or the other, or it won't inflate the yields, one or the other. To be spiking yields, one or the other, we should try to understand. The US government has to give an assurance that it won't inflate its economy, okay? The US government has to give an assurance that there's a scenario of what I should try to understand has the government won't overspend, or it will be able to manage its own debt. But we are in a regime where we cannot really analyze or understand how much the government really is spending. And we are on a road where economists believe that it's a road of no return. It's a road of what we would say that if the government sits down, well, the House of Council sit down and try to understand that how are we going to be solving the US debt? No one in their heads is likely to be ready to sit down to speak about such a kind of a topic, or could tell you to have it under talks, or try to find a solution how to clear out the US debt. No one's ready to speak about it, because the way the US government is likely to the only solution the US government, because we could say let's say we welcome a US recession that would hence create a deflation. Well, deflation, that's when goods prices go down, and you could say that that's really great, like seeing prices going down. But you have to remember, you still have the same debt, and you cannot print more money to pay off that debt. You get the point. People will lose jobs in one or the other, and you will find a slow growth, actually a decline, a big decline, and that really goes fast. That means the US government is only left to one thing, only to print money to make sure they can print more money to pay off their debt. That's like in one way or the other, they will be meaning that to overgrow the economy out of debt, which is a theory that has never been attested and refined one or the other. It's still a theory, because I've never seen an economy that grows so fast out of its debt. If you have one that you really know well, you can let me know in the comment section. But me personally, I know nothing about such a kind of economy where you can grow out of debt, where you can likely to borrow. Because if you speak about the GDP growth, the debt to GDP ratio of the US today is almost 130%. That's more. And with the government that's not likely to be showing signs of finding ways to solve the debt, that's more scary. That means you're going to see yields on the 10-year yields rising, on the 30-year yields rising. That means your business loans are going to be expensive to be. Let's say you're taking business loans, auto loans, credit card loans. All these things are going to be skyrocketing one or the other. If you ask me, what's the future of the US government, one or the other, or where it's likely to be heading to one or the other, it's uncertain. That's all I can say. Otherwise, thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Like and subscribe if you like this kind of stories. Hope for more, but we are in times of uncertainty, and I highly recommend, if you're into stock markets, everything of such kind, yeah, keep everything with an open mind. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.